and welcome back to the BraindAI Podcast. I'm your host, Lenka. This is the show for digital agencies and innovative brands focused on predictable growth. We deliver the AI solutions and systems required to streamline client acquisition and automate service delivery, ensuring you are maximizing your capacity to scale. Today, we're diving into a world of creativity, innovation, and yes, even a Giant Inflatables. My guest is Mikael Abramowitch, the visionary behind Giant Inflatables, a company that's completely redefined what we think about when we hear the word inflatable. From massive marketing activations to industrial solutions, Mikael's work is literally larger than life. Get ready to have your mind blown by how these incredible creations are shaping experiences and solving real-world problems. Mikael, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to talk about it. It's my passion as well as my work, so always happy for the opportunity to talk about it.
I'm so excited. Your company does much more than just jumping castles, obviously. What's the most surprising or unique way you've seen inflatable used that most people wouldn't even imagine?
So the thing about inflatables is that people usually just think, as you said, of the jumping castles or the wacky tube men. And as I was thinking about it, these two items are very good indicators of what you can expect from inflatables, although they're just the very, very tip of the iceberg. So when we're talking about jumping castles, we're talking about interactive experiences, things that you are actually doing something with. A jumping castle might just be the thing that comes to mind and it's suitable for kids, but that's just the very first thing that a jumping castle does. At Giant Inflatables, what we try and do is we try and take the idea of an experience or of an interaction for a brand and line it up to a brand's identity and what they're trying to do and get the most out of a particular event or a particular marketing program that they are trying to run. Inflatables like jumping castles can be really, really creative, and they're a really good way to stand out especially when you're in a competitive marketing environment for some brands. They're a really good way to do something different to the traditional marketing things. So when we're talking about creative things, we often like to do creative solutions that work in a similar technology to a jumping castle, but work around a brand's identity. For example, we did a jumping castle and obstacle course for a company called Ozito Tools. Their brand is all about the tools that you can buy at stores in Australia like Bunnings and the big block store warehouses. We took the jumping castle the idea of a jumping castle that they wanted to have, and we built it around tools. So instead of just going into a plain jumping castle with it's just hand off the kids when you go to the basketball game or whatever it is, it's an actual experience for the brand that invites not only the kids but the adults to get involved. You come in through two giant drills and you play a game on a dartboard that's made out of some hammers and some spirit levels and tape measure games and all that kind of stuff that really create a memorable interaction, not only for the kids who get involved and create memories and do all these fun things, but also for the parents that are coming to these events for the sport, but can also see the interaction that their kids are having. And then there's also elements that they can get involved with and create experiences and memories with their friends and their children that are involved with the brand. So then they go away and, okay, they had a good time at whatever event it was, whether it's a music festival or it's a sports game, but they also have these ingrained memories and experiences that are built into their memories from then on.
Incredible. I just love it. Many businesses will spend a lot on big billboards and digital ads, and inflatables are not necessarily on top of their minds. Why do you think is a better, more memorable marketing choice compared to just traditional options?
Yeah, so there are a lot of ways that inflatables are more favorable to traditional marketing methods in a lot of ways. One of the most obvious one is just their transportability. So that's the beauty of inflatables. They come from a very small package and they can inflate to be something much, much larger than life. So from essentially a standard shipping pallet sized package, you could have something that's 10, 15 meters long, tall, massive thing, and it doesn't take a complicated or expert team to set up. So not only are you getting a massive impact from a very small package, it's also something that can be integrated and pulled off by an inexperienced or small team. So rather, we're talking about a billboard, you not only can't set it up yourself, you're working with an agency who has to do everything from the design to the installation and then taking it down. Whereas if you are doing an inflatable, it's something that you could do in-house, although we do offer turnkey services if that's something people want. easily something that an inexperienced team can put up themselves, can run themselves, can pack down themselves, ship it to the next location with a very short turnaround time, rather than, for example, a pop-up store, for example, where people are going into shopping centers, they're spending 2 or 3 or 4 or a week building their structure, solid walls, screens, all that kind of stuff, doing their 2 days worth of activations and then spending 3 or 4 days packing it all down, shipping it over, and then you've got to start at the next mall and do it again. Whereas with inflatables, up in a couple of hours, you can spend the entire time that you've got scheduled for the setup and the pack down and the activation to actually be there doing your activation, and then just a couple of hours at the pack down as well. So against traditional pop-ups and experiential marketing things, it's got that advantage. Against billboards and things like that, it's just reusable and transportable. You might be able to get one billboard for the cost of one inflatable, but one inflatable can go on many, many, many different sites and many locations over 5 to 10 years, because that's how long they last. Whereas billboard, once it's gone up and it's come down, that's the end of its life cycle. You can't just take your billboard and go down the road and put it on another billboard space.
Yeah, so true. And yeah, that's really beneficial when you put it in that perspective. In a world of cheap imports from other countries, how do you convince big brands to choose your custom-made inflatables over a cheaper mass-produced option?
So a lot of it has to do with Australia as a country and the regulations that we face as a country. There's a lot of government oversight and a lot of red tape to jump through. And when it comes to big brands, it's really not difficult to convince them. They don't need a lot of convincing to go with somebody who knows what they're doing and knows all the regulations and knows how to get around all of that red tape. While there is a lot of competition from direct from China and mass-produced things, a lot of the people who are buying those types of products are individuals, consumers. It's business to consumer kind of stuff. You want 1,000 pool floats, or you want a really cheap jumping castle for your daughter's birthday, that kind of stuff. We're not in the business of providing that, and we are more than happy to let the individual consumers go and get that from China. It doesn't really matter. If you're a brand, you're extremely risk averse. Everything you do is a decision, and it has knock-on consequences for your entire business. You can't afford to buy a really cheap thing, go to a massive international event, let's say the Olympics, which are coming up. Imagine going to the Olympics as a brand like Nike, setting up a big inflatable only for it to pop or for it to collapse, or God forbid for someone to get caught up in some ropes or anything like that. You can't put that risk on your brand, and you're not going to want to try and cut corners and save a few dollars by going directly to China. You'd much rather go with a company who's going to provide everything you need, all the safety documentation, all the processes around how it's supposed to run, and feel confident that what you're going to get is not only safe and reliable, but also is visually impactful and in line with your brand identity. And brand identity, other than risks and all those other things that I touched on, brand identity is probably foremost in most brands' mind. They don't want to come and get an inflatable that they've ordered from China. Their brand is blue and they've got a purple inflatable all of a sudden. Or they need a very specific PMS color, and if the PMS color is off by just a few little dots, then it's not the right thing and it's not going to represent the brand properly. So they want to feel confident that what they're getting is exactly on brand, it's safe, it's reliable, it's reusable, and it's going to have the impact that they want for as long as they want to have. So from our perspective, that is our selling point. We're not going to give you a subpar product. It is going to cost a lot more than what you're going to get it for directly from China, but that's just the way of the world. As people know, you generally get what you pay for. You don't often find people and large brands going and spending cents to do something that they want to result in dollars.
And you also guys have warranties, right? So this is a product you can reuse again.
So we have the longest warranty period of any of the inflatable manufacturers and our competitors, whether that's international from China or locally in Australia. We guarantee you a 2-year warranty for the inflatables, and then you can expect an actual usable lifespan of 5 to 10 years. So you'll be covered for anything that happens in your 2 years. After that, we're still fully going to support you in anything that may happen. But our inflatables are using the highest quality materials and the best technology to actually create them, the best inflation devices, all that kind of stuff. And that's because we want you to get the biggest return on investment for your product. So you come in and you spend it once. It might be more than you would spend on an international thing, but you're going to be using it for years to come. And so the return on investment is really key. It really makes it an obvious choice. A lot of people also come to us and say, we've got this season coming up for sports is massive in Australia. So let's say we've got Australian rules football coming up. We are the sponsor of this team. We want to have a big set of inflatable goals outside the front that look like a tool or something like that. We'll make it, and then they'll also find that when the football season ends, the cricket season begins in Australia, and they can very easily take their inflatable, use it for the cricket season, switch back to AFL, switch back to cricket, and then soccer comes or we have a World Cup and they want to use it for lots of different things. The return on investment is obvious. You've budgeted it for one season, now using it for 5 seasons. So that makes it really obvious return on investment for our inflatables, and that is our offer. It's not going to be used just once.
You work a lot with marketing agencies as well. How do these partnerships work, and how do you help agencies deliver unique solutions for their clients?
So because we are doing all of our designs in-house here in Australia, the communication is what a lot of the agencies value more than anything else. The communication and the creativity and the input that we can have to ensure that their workflow is efficient as possible. So when people are, again, dealing with people who might not be in Australia or might be in China or wherever, you might have an idea, you might try and convey it to them. They might not fully understand, and there'll be a lot of back and forth trying to get things right. When we work with brands, we take briefs in full. Tell us what you're trying to achieve, not just what you want, not just what size it is or what color it has to be. What is your team like that's going to be setting it up? Who's going to be setting up? Do you want us to do it? Is there a third party? Do you have an events team, an install team? Is there power on site? Is there overhead lines? All that kind of stuff that they'll not think about until they've got their thing on site, and then they try and inflate it and realize it's not going to fit. We are thinking about all those things from the beginning. Not only do we think about from beginning to end, from design to delivery and installation and the future use of it, we also think quite a lot about the initial process of getting it designed and lots of different options to suit a particular budget. And that all really comes down to the briefing and the original stage. So the reason that a lot of marketing agencies like to use us is that we can present them a lot of options really quickly. So they might start by saying, I want X. We will have a discovery phase with them, discuss what it is. We'll come up with a few concepts that's maybe X plus A and X plus B and C and variations to make their life easier and present the brand better because they don't have the experience with inflatables that we do. And we can show them that brief is fantastic. Here's exactly what you've asked for in option X, but we can improve it by doing X plus A and B and C. Alternatively, we can also work with marketing agencies who use us essentially as part of their team. So they might have 10 different brands that they work with. This marketing agency might work with Nike this week. They might work with McDonald's next week. They might work with a completely different brand the week afterwards. If they know that in their toolbox of things to present alongside the radio ads, because they might have good contacts in the radio sector or TV ads or influencer marketing, any of that kind of stuff, they can also, for a similar budget or build it into their proposals directly to their clients. What about a left to center option? Let's do an inflatable because that's a lot more unique. We're still getting the presence. You're still going to hit the right target demographic. You're still going to do all those things, but we can also offer this thing that maybe your competitors aren't going to be doing, and they can easily come to us and say, we've presented an inflatable idea to Nike. Can you please give us 3 or 4 different mock-ups and ideas that we can do? And they will then just group that into their deck, present their deck to their clients, and we've basically done all the hard work for them. They don't have to spend the time designing it or doing all that stuff. Our in-house design team is here to make their life easier, and it's a two-sided coin. It's a double-edged sword, if you like, where they get to use us and our workflow to make them more efficient. But for us, marketing agencies are the best because we don't have to go and pitch to Nike and then to McDonald's. They're doing all the pitching, and they've got all the different brands in their arsenal already. So by having one marketing agency who's dealing with a lot of different brands, we're getting a diverse range of work from the one client.
Love it. Well, all my agency friends and followers here, you just heard this. Start thinking outside of the box and look at the inflatables option. Inflatables aren't kind of impulse buy, right? It's not something that you just wake up and I'm going to get inflatables. How do you stay on top of mind for your potential clients?
So this is probably the biggest difficulty with our company is that we're selling business to business and not business to consumer. We're not selling you something that I can put a Facebook ad on or an Instagram ad and you're scrolling through and you see an inflatable and you say that's exactly what I want. I'll have 3, I'll have 2, I'll have 1, whatever it is. It just doesn't work like that. Everything is bespoke and custom built for a particular brand. So I can't get into your head on your side of the computer, understand what you're going to need for your particular job, and then present it to you as an ad for you to just purchase. It has to be a full discovery, and that's not something that I can get people to buy right away. It's the idea of the inflatable medium that we can try and sell to people, not the actual product itself, not a jumping castle or a set of goals or a target or a big art piece or a replica. I can't sell that to you, but I can sell the benefits of using an inflatable to you. So what we like to do quite a lot is have our website essentially as our portfolio, showing lots of the options that we do, a history of the projects that we've done, because we've worked with massive brands at massive international events, viewed by millions of people on TV and on the grounds, all that kind of stuff. So we like to show that on our website, and our website is probably our number one source of marketing. Of course, a lot of that is SEO. How do we bring people who are looking for not necessarily inflatables in their search term, but other interesting marketing things to do, to think outside of the box? Spending a lot of time trying to figure out what keywords we want to be showing up for. We do regular marketing mail outs. So if you make inquiries with us, if you contact us, we'll put you on our mailing lists, and you'll be able to see every month essentially, or twice a month whenever we put out our newsletters, what projects we've been working on in the last month or two. And that should spark ideas in your head about, okay, they did for this tool company this thing. I'm working with not necessarily a hand tool company, but maybe a hair product company that blows hair dryers. And that's similar to a drill. And then that sparks the creative process. And then when you're ready and you're having those conversations with your client about what might be a good option, you've already got inflatables as an option in the back of your mind. So then you come and start the conversation with us, and we can then show you what the options are within the inflatables and within your brief, rather than trying to sell you a hairdryer or whatever replica it is that you want to get.
You're experiencing a rapid growth. What's your biggest challenge right now in scaling up, and how do you utilize any AI tools to help you with running the business?
So growth it's a big point for us. Since COVID and all the lockdowns, of which in Melbourne, Australia, we're based, we had the world's longest lockdowns. So there was a big dip in business. There was a lot of stuff we couldn't do. A lot of our stuff revolves around events. So obviously, no people, no events, nothing going on. Since our lockdowns ended, it's been explosive. The first year or two was just making up for lost time. It felt like, with a lot of companies trying to do things that they did get an opportunity to do while everything was locked off. And then that growth, as we became more visible and as we showed people what we can do, it just was exponential. And all of a sudden people are seeing us at the Rugby World Cup, and now they want us to do the Soccer World Cup, and then they want us to do the Olympics, or this football team sees what the other football team did. And it just grows and grows and grows. So we do struggle with manpower. It's always a chicken before the egg thing. We're growing quite a lot. We can have more staff, but then we need more staff to grow even more. And what do you do first? In this age of AI, we use AI as an efficiency tool and less so as an actual part of the team, which is something that we are always looking at changing and growing. So at the moment, we're using a lot of AIs to do our documentation of procedures, things like that. We've dabbled very slightly in an AI called Scribe, very lightly, to help us with procedures. As I said, there's a lot of red tape. There's a lot of instructions and that kind of stuff that goes into running the business and doing things. So using a thing like Scribe to help us with our standard operating procedures and what people should be doing, that's a help. But I can imagine, I'm not an expert in AI, but I can imagine that there's a lot more out there to help us efficiently grow without having to do that upfront investment of another salary or whatever that's going to be.
Yeah. What do you think is the common misconception people have about inflatables?
So I don't know if it's a misconception or it's maybe just people don't know enough about the medium to make educated decisions. And I feel like that's where we lose a lot of projects in competition with more traditional, safer, more known marketing methods. People often think that you need a degree or you need someone knowledgeable to set up your inflatable, or they think it's going to be a very onerous process to actually set it up. And a lot of that just comes down to education around it. Nobody really knows what goes into putting up an inflatable unless you've done it before. And I think a lot of people are scared away by the uncertainty of what it's going to take to run, or what it's going to take to set up, that kind of stuff. And while it's not necessarily a misconception about inflatables, it's just an education issue. And if we often find that we work with somebody once, it's not going to be long until they come again, because they see all the benefits, they see the risks are really low, they see it's really not as hard as they thought it was going to be, they can set it up themselves, or in a lot of cases, they'll just ask us to continue doing the setups, and that takes all of the risk away from them. So while it's not necessarily a misconception, it's just an education thing. We just need people to understand that inflatables are more than just the jumping castles, and there are not that many risks associated with it. In Australia, we've had a lot of, again, red tape. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of government oversight, people saying that inflatables might not be So safe because people can fall off or whatever. But as a professional company, we make sure that all those risks are completely mitigated. We're not going to send an inflatable to somebody that is unsafe in any way. There's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of oversight and a lot of Australian standards that we have to adhere to. And while that's difficult to make sure that we're in line with all of those, and it's our responsibility to make sure we're in line with all of those, the flip side is that you can guarantee that if your inflatable is made for the Australian environment for an Australian consumer, it's going to be safe because, well, there's a lot of red tape. It's technically there for a reason. It's to make sure that any design that comes here is going to be safe. And a lot of Chinese designs that might come straight over will not pass that, and they won't be able to actually be used in the public. Working with a company like us, we're making sure that everything is completely safe. You can rest assured that it's going to be completely safe and the risks are very, very low. And if there is an inflatable that some people might ask us for that isn't going to be safe and has a lot of inbuilt risk into it, we won't even do it for them. They're welcome to go and find somebody who's happy to take on that risk. But as professionals, we know what's too risky and what's not. And I'm happy to give you an example. One thing that we get asked for fairly frequently is a thing that you may have seen go viral on social media, which is a water-based inflatable that's basically a pillow that floats on the water that's half inflated, so quite soft. You get somebody on a diving board and somebody on the edge of the pillow. Somebody dives off the diving board onto the soft pillow, and that launches the other person up into the air. All fun and good, makes great viral sensations, but just very, very risky. Lots of things can go wrong. So we won't do things like that we deem are too risky and the risk of injuries are too high. So if you come to us and ask for something and we say, yes, it's safe, you can guarantee that it's going to be safe.
Thank you. Last question. What's the future of inflatables look like?
Let's talk about imagination and the sky being the limit, and that inflatables are an underutilized tool in the industry. You touched on earlier on that we have giant inflatables and we have giant inflatables industrial. While giant inflatables is pushing the boundaries of what marketing can do and what experiences can be and visual and emotional impact, there are lots of things that we can explore if people are prepared to trust us and invest into their project. Rather than coming in with a set budget for something small or for this particular event, rather come into us and say, I want to do something out of the ordinary. I want to do something that is going to blow the socks off. We can use all the technologies that we've developed over 27 years now of being in business and show them what the possibilities are. It might not be so comparable to a marquee or an umbrella. It might be more comparable to a larger marketing campaign, but it's going to be really unique. It's going to be really different. We're talking alternate materials, unique materials, reflective and gold and chrome and different experiences and dynamic inflatables that might move or breathe and do all that kind of stuff that, again, a lot of people don't want to take on an undiscovered or a risky thing that they're not so sure of. But if they can trust us to deliver on something unique, then I think it's a really good way to do it. With new technologies, a lot of them are really put into test in our industrial division. So rather than it being something that's going to represent a brand or it's going to bring people in to sign up to something or something like that, a lot of those have an actual engineered use. So whether that's in energy production and you need to clean the turbines of your giant reactor that powers 50,000 homes and you want to not shut down for a week while you prepare it all, we've developed things like inflatable buildings that they can do all of their maintenance in. It takes 4 hours to set up as opposed to 2 weeks, which is what they used to do. They can do all their stuff in there, contain it, pack it away, save a lot of money in those areas. We also are up against a lot of technical challenges like heat and sealing and water pressures and all that kind of stuff, which get tested out in the field on our industrial stuff and trickle down into our everyday inflatables, whether that be smart inflation technologies, which were originally developed for the industrial sector. For example, you have an inflatable that needs to be at 1 psi pressure at all times. A tractor comes and makes a small hole in it because you're on a construction site. That's understandable. We've developed systems where fans can constantly monitor the pressure at all time, add or remove, and that kind of stuff trickles down into our regular marketing and experiential inflatables. I often like to think of it as a motorsport fan as the F1, where a lot of those technologies are proven and then they get trickled down into everyday road cars. Whereas I feel like our industrial sector is our F1, where we get to test all these high-end technologies and budget for your marketing campaign is not necessarily a factor, but you have a lot of budget because you're talking about millions of dollars of losses in time if you don't get it right and that kind of stuff. So we test a lot of our things there, and then that trickles down to our regular everyday inflatables to make life easier and to make it safer and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of technology is always emerging. We're always on the lookout for new technologies, and we're always keen to test them out.
Can't wait what's coming. It's so exciting. Thank you, Mikael, for jumping on. All our listeners, you'll find website and contact details down below in the description. So please feel to reach out if you have more questions or you have any briefs, and we'll be back with another interesting topic soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Bye.